Previously on Destiny.
Witness.
Whatever that thing is, we gotta take it down.
Guardians, it is true what they say, that within resides the light of hope. Through the years you were healed from brokenness, reckoned with your past and healed others to traverse the chaos of life. Now, on the eve of the final shape, there is more that must be done to push back the assailing horrors of the night. Step forward into the future. Welcome back, Guardians. My name is Samlab. And today I'd like to talk to you about what Prismatic is. We're headed into the heart of the Traveler, and it is choosing you Guardians to represent it and empower us with its gifts. Prismatic is the embodiment of light and dark, a manifestation of a union of light and darkness synergized together to create a potent arsenal that dwarfs singular subclasses in comparison. After crossing this threshold, no other Guardian will want to wield a singular subclass ever again. Technically, officially, no other Lightbearer has wielded anything like this before. Within the realm of Prismatic is a new state called Transcendence. Transcendence allows Titans, Warlocks and Hunters to unlock a completely new level of power. It enabled Guardians to combine light and dark subclasses together. Prismatic could be looked at like a majestic symphony of sounds. It isn't just about wielding this newfound ability, but also the meaning behind it. To untether oneself from the old and moving into the new. And the exciting part about this, of course, is now you get the opportunity to really become your own Guardian. So, if you have your own original character, OC, then Prismatic really gives you the opportunity to bring that dream or vision to life. Now, many of you will be wondering where this came from. What are the origins of Prismatic? The nature of the Transcendent subclass has been evident in Destiny's lore for years, where certain protagonists within the world of Destiny have hinted or suggested or signposted toward the idea of using other spectrums of light. But I think there are very specific lore entries that we can recollect on which give us the clues very early on in Destiny's journey. This is a lore entry that we've looked at before, but I believe it bears major significance now as we head into final shape. Have a listen to this conversation between Emperor Callus and the Drifter, titled Penumbral Cloak.
This cloak of yours, for the day you ignite the spark that casts the shadow of Earth. I activated the mechanism that opened my chamber doors. The massive gears on either side shrieked in protest as they ground against themselves to wrench the massive, solid plasteel gates open. It took a while. It took a whole minute to complete the sequence. A tiny, tiny man sped through the now gaping maw of the gates on a tiny earth machine. It took him several minutes more to reach earshot of me, leaving a billowing trail of dust in his wake. I'm afraid my chamber had not been cleaned in some time. Cleanliness meant nothing to me now. I had not entered an audience so directly in centuries, but I was as curious about this creature as it was of me. The minuscule man dismounted his machine and stared up. I pictured I would relish the moment when his eyes went wide at the sight of my grandeur. But he didn't seem to care. He frowned a little. Fascinating.
"Is that you?"
he asked, voice echoing upward at me.
"The real you?"
Yes, I replied, and the metal ground around me rattled and shook at my speech. It was the truth, one of me refreshment. I activated a mechanism in the floor, raising a minuscule but ornate table out of the dusty metal deck. A single equally tiny chalice, filled to the brim with royal nectar wine, sat on its center.
"No thanks,"
the man said.
"Last time I drank an alien something, I had a gunfight with what came out of me."
What can Emperor Callus do for you? I asked. I pretended to stare at him. In doing so, I analyzed every fiber of his being at a spectrum level. I had always expected he was a guardian. But there was something else, a shade of something that reminded me of the Black Edge. So the tiny man liked to play outside the light.
"I got somewhere to be, so I'll make this short. Where do you and I stand? I need these guardians as much as you do. We gonna start fighting for territory soon?"
The shadows are mine, I boomed, pelting him with my voice. He winced. I wasn't angry. I didn't have it in me to be angry anymore. But he had to know.
"So that's a yes,"
he muttered, and flipped a jade coin into the air with a clink that echoed throughout the massive chamber.
"There isn't a sane being in this whole system."
He grumbled at the coin, then caught it.
"I'm not sure you know what I mean."
I'm not sure I know what you mean, I said. It was the truth. Data from the spectral analysis of the peasant continued to pour in. He stared at me.
"You're crazy. Those guardians you got working for you, they're crazy. The Vanguard's crazy."
He looked down at his coin.
"I might be crazy."
He chuckled suddenly.
"I leave the system for a couple of 100 years and everything goes to hell."
He shook his head.
"Look at you. The Cabal Emperor ain't even Cabal anymore, right?"
I am the last thing this system shall ever see, I replied. My scan was finished, and so was this man's welcome in my abode. I think he knew, because he turned to leave.
"You come after what's mine, and I've got friends in low places who'll tear your house down,"
he called back to me. I glimpsed his smile, and it was full of teeth. I laughed as he sped away on his machine. His friends were mine first.
I think that this is extremely interesting. To me, that the person who talked the most about Spectrum of Lights isn't the Traveler, the Vanguard, or the Drifter, or even the Nine, but Emperor Callus. After witnessing Guardians for a long time, he became obsessed with the idea of wielding a power far greater than just the light. After seeing the end of everything, he knew that the only way to survive would be to evolve, to transcend his current existence and move into another one. This isn't unlike the anathema that the Ahamkara live by, or the Hive's logic. Every part of these processes involves shedding off and transitioning into the new. This is of course the very nature and logic of the winnower, and very close to the definition of what the final shape could look like. And as we have discovered in all the unveiling lore as of late, not all those who use the darkness are of the darkness, and that includes the witness, who according to the Entelechy lore isn't even sure whether what it is trying to achieve is possible, nor has complete conviction of its actions to achieve a complete finality and become the only relevant knife's edge. But before I move on, there is one more lore entry from Emperor Callus. I believe this is useful for us knitting this tapestry of lore beats together, to better understand the nature of Prismatic and its roots. Take a listen to the lore entry titled Cloak of Feltrock. I can outshoot anybody, even the Traveller Spawn. My mind's bigger too. Feltrock the Skullpiercer.
Feltrock pitied your kind, for your reliance on the light. Prove her wrong. Show this universe you can open your mind and accept new horizons, as she did. Your predecessors have sought to understand other sources of power, to control them. None have embraced them like I have, like you could. There is an entire spectrum of power left untapped that your light prevents you from realizing. When the time comes, seek me out. I will teach you to grow fat from strength.
I know that many of you Guardians will be able to point out different examples in the lore that I haven't read or stumbled on just yet within the libraries of the Ishtar Collective. But there is an interesting situation in that there is in fact multiple firearms within Destiny signposting to the idea of subclasses working in a prismatic nature. Thorn, Malfeasance, Lumia, Traveller's Chosen, Conditional Finality, and so on. While not all these armaments combine the attributes of light and darkness subclasses, each brings emphasis to the principles and logic of how light and darkness can be wielded in the world of Destiny. One such exotic weapon that comes to mind is the Borealis, a weapon that can change subclass element on a whim. It has an interesting entry attached to it I think you'll find fascinating. Have a listen to this armament lore entry titled Borealis.
Light is a spectrum. Why limit yourself to a single hue?
Project Borealis's onboard system contains a pocket energy matrix, capable of changing its alignment in the near instant to mimic the spectral frequencies of mapped energy types. The science is groundbreaking, but volatile. We're lucky to have this first stable model available for active combat use. More will surely come, but for now, the Borealis is the only one of its kind, and I trust for real world applications. Sounds dangerous. If the internal matrix misaligns for any reason during its shift between outputs, damage, wear, a flaw, its production, the resulting feedback could redacted. That bad, huh? If your definition of bad includes the redacted, then yes, bad begins to describe it. There is no greater example within Destiny of the union of light and dark as the Root of Nightmares raid. When the Traveller attacked the pyramid ship holding the Witness, several things happened. The light occupies the realm of the physical, So even though it is paracausal, the witness was able to pass through it unharmed because it uses the power of the dark. Although the witness was completely unharmed, the Traveler did infest the pyramid ship. We know that the Traveler generates life on a molecular level, and this is exactly what happens to the pyramid ship. In Destiny's past, each time the Traveler visited a planet, it would inject life into barren worlds. This process is called terraforming. A subversive process begins as living matter is poured in paracausally, driven into the substance of the world, or in this case, a pyramid ship. You'll notice that any time the Traveler's energy is used, a cradle is left behind, signifying the impact of the Traveler's presence. This can be seen on Mercury, Mars, Io, and now the pyramid ship, which contained Nezarec. Throughout the entirety of the ship, manifestations of Prismatic can be seen. Prismatic draws from the word prism, which is a solid geometric figure whose two ends are similar, and parallel rectilinear figures, and whose sides are parallelograms. This is huge because it describes the core of the flower game, the primordial arguments between the gardener and the winnower. Unveiling lore paints a very loose understanding of what these themes of life and death, or light and dark, are, and this has become the core of Prismatic. We can also see a living example in the Awoken. They were the first product of a collision between light and dark. In fact, it makes me wonder how similar the Awoken's power is to Prismatic, and where a correlation can be drawn between the two. The further we look, the more we see themes emerge. The physical shape of the Witness's ship presents this idea in full swing, with the living power of the Traveler terraforming and transcending in union with darkness. Many had a feeling that this would be the case in Destiny, that it would emerge in the final moments, but it wasn't certain. Though lore is littered with all kinds of experiences from Guardians and enemies alike, there was no way to tell for sure. There is, however, one lore entry I think bears the most amount of significance to the process which Guardians are about to undergo in Destiny and the final shape. Have a listen to this lore entry from the book Maricina, titled Cosmogaia. She remembers everything about the moment she was born. She has gone outside Yang Li Wei to die in starlight. She cannot bear to let anyone see her fear or her awe at the scale of destruction, or her pity for the billions of souls dying in darkness back around Sol. She cannot be among the other crew as they cling to each other and whisper reassurances. Not even with her mother. She cannot surrender her mystery. So she kicks off the hole on 50 kilometers of tether, but there's no starlight to die in. The darkness is absolute. Gravity waves tug on her line, pulling her back toward Yang, and then hurling her away. In time, she feels another vibration in the line. "Sister," the tether transmits. "I'm coming out to get you." "Brother," she thinks. "You'll lose yourself trying to follow me." Captain Lee's voice breaks through the static, drawn out to the mumble and then compressed to a shriek. Spikes of hard radiation go through her words like bullets, spattering phonemes into eerie compression artifacts. This is the interstellar vessel Yang Li Wei to the entity interacting with us. We are not involved in your dispute with the powers around this star. We are on a mission to begin a new life elsewhere. Our purpose is orthogonal to yours. We request your indifference. Mara's tether trembles with Aldwin's progress. She holds it in one hand and reaches out with her gripping the emptiness, feeling how the tides of broken space pull at her fingertips. She senses that the nothingness around her is not indifferent, that it is aware of all purposes, and that its own purpose encompasses them. It is infinitely hostile because it must be. Suddenly, As if the void around her has just spontaneously big banged, she sees light. A point of pure white shines in the cosmic distance, not just visible luminance. Her suit decompresses the spectrum, but light in the radio bands, in microwave, kneeing ultraviolet, a spike of gamma, a total and all-embracing radiation. It stings, it chatters, it speaks in a voice older than suns. She feels that she could Fourier the voice for a century and never decompose into its parts. It is awesome and appalling and piercingly true. Mara understands how those who die in radiation accidents must feel. A single flash of invisible power sears away all possible futures except one. She feels her soul itself has been ionized, blasted into a higher energy state. The light pierces the darkness, not like the sunrise, not like a wall or a flood, but a single propulsar ray, a finger of radiance that reaches out through deepest night to touch her. It illuminates Mara, Aldwin, and Yang Liwei. It is not quite enough. It cannot vanquish the shadow. Thus Mara finds herself drifting on the edge of the light and the darkness, on the dusk and dawn gradient between the two. She feels the contest, a battle fought, an equilibrium reached. Not a truce, but an infinite limit, like an equation dividing by zero. A collision of two violent eternities. Mara queries Yang Liwei for telemetry, and her sensorium fills with the terrified scream of gravitational instruments. She howls too, a feral sound, ecstatic and lost, a wolf baying at the stars. She knows what's happening. Too much power has gathered here. The universe is appalled by the paradox. Nothing that has glimpsed this collision of infinitudes can be allowed to escape. The cosmos must censor its embarrassment. It must sequester the anomaly. The slope of wrapped space-time around them has become too steep, and now every path outwards or forward bends back to the center where light and dark collide. The definition of future has become synonymous with the definition of inward. This is why it's called an event horizon. For an object within the horizon, the path of all future things that can be done or seen leads inevitably down to the center. All events lead inward. A singularity is forming around her, a Kugelblitz, a black hole created by the concentration of raw energy. "Mara!" Aldwin shouts. "Mara, you're too far out!" Mara thinks of her mother's face. She hears Osana say,
I can't watch over you like a mother would. I have to make my own choices now.
She fires the detach command into the tether. Gravity seizes her. She falls forward into space and time, into the future, into the mystery. Yang Liwei is behind her. Aldwin is behind her. She wants to be the first. This is it. The moment is quite literally the first birth of prismatic guardians, human beings who entered the game between light and darkness. Mara pleaded with the traveler in the darkness and got her answer. There is so much about this lore entry that already describes some part of the process that guardians are about to undergo in Destiny. Communion, an in-between. Because the light couldn't vanquish the darkness completely, but meet it head-on. Both forces are each other's undoing. In her limited understanding, Mara floated at the precipice of existence, shouting through the void to address the traveler and the darkness. Her plea wasn't only a request, but a demand for understanding, for balance. Because now, she had glimpsed the truth in the swirling chaos of the universe, and now she sought to forge a path where light and darkness could coexist, where the crew of the Yang Liwei might thrive. What if this emergence marked a turning point, in the eternal struggle between the light and darkness in Destiny. No longer bound by the limitations of their Golden Age predecessors, the Awoken embraced their dual nature, wielding the power of both light and darkness in equal measure. As the dawn of Prismatic takes shape, Guardians will venture into the vast expanse of the cosmos, their destinies now intertwined with the very fabric of existence itself. Whatever happens next is going to change Destiny forever, and like you, Guardians will be there at the end, and at the dawn of a new horizon. But that's all I have for you. Although we didn't get an exact look at how Prismatic works entirely within Destiny's lore, I think the evidence is already there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment below. Tell me which aspect of Prismatic really interests you the most, and leave a like. Consider subscribing and click the bell to find out when my next lore videos go live. I have 2 more videos already scripted, so I'm going to focus on recording those in the next couple of weeks that will tie into the Final Shape story. So keep a lookout for those. Remember that no matter what you're facing at this moment in time, you can do all things. Stay safe and Godspeed.